Hi everyone, this is Fred from ModelTrainStuff.com. We're here today to show you, if you're on a budget, as most of us are, how to take a relatively inexpensive train set and weather it and detail it to make it worthy of the pros. Okay, well here's the set we're using. You can see it's a BNSF diesel with some freight cars. So what we're going to do first is we're going to use this Hunter Line weathering mix. This is creosote black. We'll have more of this, some additional colors in the future. We're going to pull one of the cars out of the case, and then what we're going to do is open up the bottle. I'm just going to take a cheap brush, and I'm just from the top. I'm just going to brush some of this on the top to start. And what this is going to do is just represent the grime and everything that accumulates on top of freight cars over the course of time. You don't have to be accurate, but you really want this to flow towards the edges, just like water would, because these roofs are actually slanted towards the outside from the center out. So we're just going to put this on. Then you want to do the same for the side. You usually start a car off this way. You don't necessarily need to, but I've found that it'll actually, if the car has a little bit of a plastic sheen to it, it will take that plastic sheen off for one thing and make it look a little more prototypical. These are cast on details, so you gotta make sure you get inside these ladders. And it's okay to let this stuff, let the material collect in these areas down in here, because that's where the grime and dirt would accumulate anyway. So you also want to make sure that you hit the truck frames on the outside. And go around and do the other side. And it also helps with future steps to make sure that the chalks or whatever we may be using take a little bit better. You need to do the ends. You can see this doesn't take very long. Coupler pockets. Anyway, that's the extent of you starting out with that. Okay, so we've got the first coat on this car. You can see that the difference between the two, how much a little bit or more weathered this car is than that. So what we're going to do from this point forward is I'm going to go ahead and do this first step on these cars here. And then we'll come back with the next few steps that we need. While these are drying, I can show you an alternate way if you don't want to use the liquids for weathering the car. And if you want to go a little lighter, sometimes this is a way. If you want to go a little lighter weathering, this is a way to go. We're using a company called Pan Pastel. They're like a chalk, but it has a moisture content to it, so they're actually very nice. We're going to use these also later on these cars, but this is a way, an alternate way we can weather them. So what I'm doing is they come in a series of grays, and I'm going to start with that. I'm actually using the darkest black, and I'm just going to dip this. Is almost like a mascara foam for putting makeup on. And all you're going to do is just take it and just lightly streak here. And this stuff's really nice because it actually stays in place. It's not like a chalks, which will actually wear off over time. And you can take your finger and smooth it out if you wish. You could do the tops, and you know, you can see it'll also take, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little bit of a sheen on the roof here. We're just going to hit this with a little bit of this Pan Pastel. Run our fingers across it here, and it's going to give you that that look of take that sheen off of there and give you that grimy, kind of a more grimy look. We'll come back with a lighter gray, which will look like the soot coming off either a steam engine or a diesel locomotive. Pan Pastel makes a bunch of different applicators that'll allow us to get in here. But this kind of gives you the idea of one of the things that you can do as an alternate method of weathering the car as your first step. Now these cars have dried enough that I can go ahead and start adding some additional weathering to them. The two cars in the front were done with the liquid weathering that we used from Hunterline, and these two cars we used the pan pastel. I went with a lighter color gray on the Wisconsin Central hopper car, just to show you that if you don't want the car to look as heavily weathered, you can use a lighter gray to do that, but you still want to show kind of a dusty look on it. So we're going to lighten this car up just a little bit. We're going to use a little lighter color gray with the pan pastel, and we're just going to streak, and you can use your finger, and this is like watermarks coming down the car from the roof. So you don't need to do this very heavily. Just come on, and you can see it actually will lighten up that darker color that we put on earlier, just slightly. And we're just coming along. You can do the same to the roof, because the roof would have dust and grime and stuff on it. The rain's been washing it off over the years. So you want almost like a camouflage or mottled look. You can use a couple different color grays up here actually, which I'm going to do. I'm just going to put this lighter gray on first. Which are just putting it in. I'm going to use a little darker gray, to give us a little variation of color. You can see how that's coming out real nice now. A little different highlighting. The really nice thing about the weathering, one of the best things it does for you is that all the manufacturers put these really nice details on the car, and you really don't see them until you do a little bit of weathering, and all of a sudden all those little handrails details will show up. See, these little stirrups right here will show up. This ladder shows up much better just by adding a little bit of weathering to the car. So what we're doing is just putting some gray streaks in locations along here. You can see now this car is really starting to look well used at this point. So, as with any railroad and life, rust is a continuing problem. So what we're going to do, as soon as I get the end of the car here done, and the end of these cars actually got very heavily weathered because wheels were kicking up dust off the rails and the ties. So these ends should be fairly heavily weathered. Also, we'll show you where the wheels will kick dust up on the sides of the car too, so you need to weather a little bit along just above the wheels to show you how that works, or that the wheels are kicking the dirt up. So, but what we can do on that is just add a little bit of extra dust along here, just above the wheels. So what we're going to do now is, in normal places you have rust coming off these, usually off your grab irons here. So I'm just going to take a rust color and just lightly pull a line down here, and then maybe just on occasion in areas where you would expect rust to accumulate. And here we have some rivets. So generally the rivets are one of the first things that, so you just slightly do this. So you don't want to overdo this part of it. You just want to add a little bit of added detail by adding a little bit of rust, usually accumulated down along these sills. You can simulate newer rust by, I'll show you here in just a second. A bit heavier there. But even on the roof, you had rust on the roof, so you want to add a little bit of spotty stuff on the roof. You see the roof roof's really looking cool, as is the side. And if you want a little lighter rust or newer rust, you would just pick a lighter color and just kind of streak that down a little bit in this area here, just to give you a little bit of additional color. So we're going to go ahead and continue weathering this car, and I'll show you some other techniques and different product that you can use on some of the other cars to also provide the same kind of weathering to it.